Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am your host, Ashley Owen, Director of Product Marketing for our Dimension CM solution. Let me welcome each and every one of you from every corner of the world. We have a significant number of people attending. I'm delighted to introduce Serena Dimension CM14, and I will introduce the speakers shortly. A couple of housekeeping facts. Please do, if you have any questions, enter them in the chat window, and we will endeavour to respond expediently. We'll also take questions at the end. So without any further ado, let me introduce the speakers. So today we have Don Irvine, Senior Director of R&D based in St Albans, and that's also where I am coming from today. He leads the Serena Dimensions development team that has done an absolutely phenomenal job working with a preview program that contained over 150 customers. Joining Don today, Mr. Peter Raymond, our Principal Product Architect, who will demonstrate and wow you with our solution today. Don, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Ash. So I'm delighted to be here today to introduce to you Dimensions 14, which represents a significant investment for Serena. It's been some time in the making and really is the most significant release of Dimensions in the past decade. Today we've got a number of slides. I'll try not to bore you too much with slides and leave it to Peter to go through the demo. So really, when we sat back and looked about 2 years ago, we were talking with our customers, our customer advisory boards, our internal sales teams around what we should be focusing on for Dimensions for the next release, what we needed to be doing. There's been a significant shift in the market over the past few years around agile development, which is all around speed of development, bringing changes forward faster, delivering code, delivering releases faster. And the shift in the market has been how we support that from a tooling perspective. And that's really where we came at Dimensions 14 from. What do we need to do to enable development teams to deliver code faster, deliver releases faster? And we looked at it and we said, so we need to focus on the developer experience. What does the developer need? He needs the tool not to get in his way. He needs to deliver changes faster. We focused on a feature called change sets, which I'll introduce to you in a minute. We looked at, well, how does he know the quality of the changes he's delivering into the repository, and we've had a big focus around health. We looked at what tools does he need to support his work. So we very much broadened our integrations and also looked at the process side, very much around collaborative development. We'll talk more about peer review as we go through this and really try to bring that process, but that collaborative focus into the tooling. So let's go forward. So change sets. This is the most fundamental part of 14. It's a big architecture change. When a developer typically works on a change and delivers that into the repository, it's not just one file, it's multiple files grouped together. And we group that now into a logical unit of delivery called change sets. So if you imagine he's got a file foo.c and bar.h, which he's delivering in, we will group those changes together and name it. And that name is, we give a number. So in the example here you see on the slide, we've delivered a set of changes in, and that goes into the stream or project in Dimensions, and we call it version 1. Now whenever we want to refer back to that change, we refer to version 1 of the stream. So we've uniquely identified it. And as we advance development, more changes are delivered in, and we end up with unique versions of the stream. And what that then enables us to do is, as we're branching or merging or labeling changes, we have a timeline. Changes advance, developers are working on changes, we deliver them in. At some point we want to go and do a build. And typically to do that build, we want to label that build. So we'll have something called a baseline. Traditionally, Dimensions, it's been a strength area of Dimensions, but it's been a slow, resource-intensive operation. But now, a baseline is a fast operation because it becomes a label to a version of the stream. And we can also do other things with it. We can start to label older versions of the stream. So two things there for existing Dimensions users is baselining is now a very fast operation. It takes the order of seconds now, whereas typically before it may have taken minutes. And we can historically label previous versions of a repository. And for my own team, if we're looking in, we've been using this internally now since October. What this has enabled us to do is we're continuously building. We're not baselining as we go. We decide that we have a build at some point that we want to take forward. We're able to apply that baseline retrospectively. And we can take the same model across to branching. So if we create a branch off, a branch becomes a very fast operation as well. So it becomes a label to the point in time. We have the same paradigm where we continue to deliver changes into that new branch. That branch is versioned individually. And when we come back to merging those changes in, again, we've focused on that side. The modern world of development says we want to deliver changes faster. And a common model for that is to branch those changes out. So develop those changes in branches, in silos, and then merge them back in. But what stops people doing that is that branching is a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to track where your changes are. So you want good visibility of what branches you have in flight, what the status of those branches are, what changes are on those branches. But you also, when you come to merge back in at the end of it, you want it to be an easy operation. And we very much focused on making the merging process reliable, robust. So for 99% of use cases, we're able to merge that change in automatically for you without needing your intervention. So it very much takes a lot of the pain away from that branching and merging. I mentioned earlier on that we focused on the visualization. So we've introduced a new UI, which is called Serena Pulse. There are two real capabilities that we've delivered in that UI today, and as we move forward in future Dimensions releases, you'll see more capabilities coming in through this UI. It's a very modern looking UI, very different to what you might call traditional Dimensions UIs. And it gives us, the first capability is giving us what we call change and branch visualization. So you see a graphic on the screen here, which is really representing a number of branches that are in flight. You can see maybe a main line. If you can just about read the slide here on your display, you can see a hotfix being branched off, and then the changes being developed on that hotfix, and then merged back into the main line again. So it gives you a very clear visual history of what's going on that in your repository, on your projects. The other thing we've done is we've tied that in with your continuous integration and test systems. So you'll notice on the display there's some colour, and Peter will go through this more in his demo. But the colour represents what we call the health of those changes. So the green here represents that the majority of the changes are good, but we also see that we've got a bad change on that display, and that's being fed back to us from the build system. And what that then enables us to do as developers, as team leaders, as development managers, is make intelligent decisions around those changes. So for instance, if I'm going to update my work area as a developer, and the current version of the repository isn't building or maybe has some unit test failures on it, directly within the SCM tool, within Dimensions, we're able to warn you that version of the repository is suspect. So it prevents the developer going through that thrashing cycle of pulling down a change into his work area. Now things don't build. Is that something he's done? Is it something that wasn't right in the repository? And then what does he do to correct it? So very much streamlining what the developer does. And you can then see this moving out into other aspects of the tool. So if I'm merging, is the branch I'm merging in, are the changes I'm merging in good changes to be merged across? If I'm deploying changes outwards, are those changes good changes? So we're starting to bring this knowledge about health very much in front of the developer, starting to link all the tools within your ecosystem together to provide that knowledge directly to the developer and streamline his efficiency. The other feature we brought in through this UI is peer review. So we talk about, Agile talks about the need for pair programming and collaborative development. And one aspect of that is the peer review process. So review of changes as they go into the repository. And we've built that directly into Dimensions. as part of your dimensions license. So you no longer need to go off and purchase a separate tool to provide this for you. You can get it natively within dimensions. And the other benefit through that is that you then have full audit trail alongside the changes themselves. The UI itself is very interactive, it's very visual, developers can collaborate on changes, and it also becomes a documentation record of what's happened to those changes. You'll see more about when Peter runs through the demo in just a minute. And the final thing we've done is really focused around the developer experience. So making sure we're supporting the right tools. So if you're out there using the IntelliJ IDE, that will now be supported. If you're doing mobile development, very big in today's world, I'm sure the majority of your organisations have some sort of form of mobile development going on. We support the latest tooling, Xcode for iOS, Accelerator for Android development. We support the latest tools there for working with dimensions. Another aspect of this is file merge. So for file merging is a very common developer operation. So we sat back, looked at it, and do we improve our own capabilities here, or do we just go and take the best of breed out there and bundle that with dimensions? So which is what we ended up doing. So we ended up forming in a partnership with Araxis, who I'm sure many of you have heard. And we bundled Araxis with Dimensions, so you get Araxis merge now as part of your Dimensions license. Again, a very powerful merge tool, very user-friendly, and an example of the focus that we have on providing the developer with the best tools available to do his job. So with that, I think it's time for a demonstration. So I'm going to hand over to our Chief Architect on Dimensions, Peter Raymond, who's got a demo which will take about half an hour to run through. We ran part of this demo through at the UK Customer Day yesterday and received a round of almost a standing ovation at the end of it. It is a very visual demo, something you won't have seen before with Dimensions. So over to you, Peter.
Okay, so I'm logged in here to the new Serena Pulse user interface that Don was just talking about. So first of all, let's have a look at that change set graph, that display of changes over time that Don was mentioning there. So here we can see down the left-hand side are a number of streams of development. Maybe these are features of a release being built, maybe these are defect fixes, maybe these are emergency changes. They're units of development work going down the side. Along the top, we've got a timeline. So for example, if I look back here in January, we branched off of our main line into a bug fix stream. There were a number of deliveries on that bug fix stream, and then it was merged back again. So each dot here is a developer delivering a set of changes, not necessarily an individual file. It could be a whole bunch of development changes that they've decided to commit in one transaction, and that's what these change sets are. And we can see that this delivery here, it's red. It failed to build. And it has an X, which means the peer review for that delivery failed as well. And then that problem was corrected before it was merged back into the main line. So what we're trying to do is, like Don mentioned, make it easy for development team leads and developers to see exactly what's going on in their business. Where are changes currently occurring? What are the quality of those changes? How much code churn is there? How frequent are these changes occurring? So if I scroll over to the right here, you'll see there's a change here which was unstable build. Its unit test failed. So again, it's this notion of bringing visibility to the quality of a change. So we know Dinesh's delivery here introduced some unit test breakage. We know this delivery here by Emma actually didn't manage to build. And these deliveries we can see were successful. So all about visibility. And of course, since it's a display for visibility, you can do things like filter it. So maybe we're just interested in the fixed stream and the main line. We could filter down to just those. We can, of course, filter by time periods as well in here. But I'll just change that back to showing everything. And essentially, you can zoom in and out of this graph. I mean, of course, it supports the normal browser kind of zooming. So we could zoom in and go back out to get a complete picture of what's happening on our streams. But we can also change visibility of what we're seeing by grouping these deliveries by days or by weeks. So if I look at the daily view, we can see there were 2 commits on a Sunday. Interesting, development team must have been working overtime. And if I zoom back out to the weekly view, I can see, for example, there were 3 commits on this stream on that week, and they were all good commits. We can click here and get detail on the changes that were made. So kind of with that, let's actually see this display in action. We'll go and we'll behave as a developer and make a change and see that affect this display. So I'm going to go into our Eclipse integration. This could, of course, be any Serena Dimensions client, any tool that the developers are familiar with using. And I'm going to create a new stream to do our development work in. Maybe we're developing some features around paying for something over a web interface. So I'll create that new stream. And what you'll see is on the graph there, it dynamically updated real time and showed me that the stream has now been created and where it was branched from. Where did it come from? Now that stream is grey because it has not yet been configured to be built. You'll see that we're configuring it such that every delivery is causing a build, a continuous integration build kind of paradigm. You may have many different builds for a particular stream, maybe builds on different platforms, maybe different parts of your code base are built with different tools. So we support actually configuring a number of builds per stream. So I'm going to go into my new stream. And it's very intuitive. There's a button at the top here that says Add Jenkins Job. So in this case, I'm going to add a Jenkins build. I just so happen to have a URL to a suitable Jenkins build handy. So this is configuring where to go to do the build. Save that. Now back to the graph again. Okay, and what we'll do is we'll make a delivery on this stream and we'll see that cause a build. So back in Eclipse, we're going to add our new stream that we just created to our developer's workspace so that it can start changing the code. I think Don mentioned there that some of the changes we've made in CM 14.1 enable these operations to perform really fast. So creating the new stream was almost instantaneous there. We didn't have to copy all the data from the old stream into the new stream. It was just a pointer to that previous stream. So almost instantaneous stream creation. And there downloading the project was fairly quick as well. All kinds of enhancements around optimizing how we transfer the files and caching the files on the client side to make all of this as fast as possible. So I'm going to make a couple of changes to make the peer review interesting. So the first one is I'm going to just drag and drop an image change into Eclipse so we get an updated image on our website. And I'm also going to go and change some source code to go along with that update. And what we're going to do is we're going to add support for paying by American Express. So we need is American Express. And maybe this developer also wants to change some logic around making the payment if it is an American Express card. So the developer's done his work and he's going to deliver his changes. We've also modified the user experience of updating and delivering in our Eclipse integration in this release. So previously this would have opened a synchronized view and I would have seen changes that other users may have made that need to come down. But here I explicitly said I just wanted to deliver. I just want to push my changes up to the server. So it's taken me straight into this view. So we're going to deliver those changes, make a comment. And critically here, I wanted to show that we've tied all of this in with Dimensions change requests. So this developer has a task that's come to his inbox for him to do this work in the first place. and he's going to do his delivery against that Dimensions CM change request that's in his inbox. So that delivery is happening, and you can see the graph updating, and we can see it's begun to be built. So the dot here is orange because the build is currently in progress. And we can even drill into that while it's building to see what's going on. So actually, while I was clicking there, the build completed. So I can see here for this change, the build was passed, and I get a direct link into the build system to show what happened during the build. So it's tying all of that information from build together into the information about my change request and the information about the change I'm making. Now, what we want to do next is actually move that Dimensions change request along its life cycle so that it's ready to be reviewed. So we'll come over to Eclipse again as the developer. The developer had this task in his inbox, task to add American Express support, and he's going to action that to the in review state. And that's disappeared from his inbox now. That CM request has been sent along for peer review. So let's go and log into the Pulse UI as the person who's responsible for the review. So here you can see various reports on the reviews that are in the system. And the one I've got selected here is essentially my inbox as a reviewer. Which review tickets are waiting for me to perform review on? And you can see the one that we just delivered for Eclipse has now appeared in Kevin's inbox for him to review. And again, you know, as a reviewer, he's got access to this detail about the build health and what happened with building that change. We can see who submitted that change and who's responsible for reviewing it. Now, in the model we've got here that I'm demonstrating, the reviewer was chosen automatically by the system based on Dimensions CM role assignments. So it picked the most appropriate person with knowledge about the components that were changed to perform the peer review. That's just one model. This system is highly configurable, just like the rest of Dimensions CM. You could have had, for example, a system whereby the owner would have to go in and pick a team of reviewers. And you could even enforce it such that, say, 50% of the reviewers have to approve the ticket before it becomes an approved review. Or maybe you've got a single person who can veto the review, and he's kind of like a lead reviewer, and if he says the review's good to go, it's good to go. So we support all different models of how you create your review team and assign them. So for example here, I can actually just add another reviewer if we want. We could say Emma is also a reviewer. All of this information about who's eligible to be a reviewer and who's automatically selected as a reviewer all comes from the Dimensions CM design parts and role assignment system. But what you can see also in here, not just information about the reviewers and about the review itself, but the actual contents of the review. So which files were changed and how were they changed? Were there new files added? Were files renamed? And a view here of side by side the before and after. So these are the exact changes that developer just made in Eclipse, and it's highlighting the portions of the line that changed. It would show deletions. I can filter this display. I can navigate between changes if I have a lot of changes to review. But basically, it's a very clear side-by-side view of the changes. And even the image file here, you can see that I modified to add American Express. We can compare that to the old version. And what I'll do here is we can start to collaborate on this review, because there may well be a team performing this review. So we'll actually start making some comments on the review, and we can drag and drop just a couple of lines of code, the lines of code that are relevant to my comments, and start in line talking about the change. So I can see a problem here with Peter's change. He's only going to charge the customer now if it's an American Express card. What if it's not an American Express card? We've suddenly lost the ability to charge our customers. This would be a nasty change to be past review. So Kevin is going to make a comment, and you can see which lines of code he's commented on. And just to show you the collaborative and threaded nature of this, I'm actually going to log in as Peter. Again, you see we've got user avatars here coming from Serena Business Manager in this case. They don't have to come from Serena Business Manager. You don't have to use Serena Business Manager to use Serena Pulse or Dimension CM 14.1. It's just a convenient system for us to get the avatar images from. You could be getting your avatars from your LDAP server or your Microsoft Outlook server. You could also be getting them from an online service like Gravatar. So now I'm logged in as Peter. Look at his reviews. Now in this case there's nothing waiting for him to review, but Peter was the author of a reviewer. So in here we can see the review that he authored. And we can see Kevin's comment. And we can respond. And you'll notice this is kind of rich text response. I can insert pictures, comments, bullet points, lines of code. So let's reply to Kevin's comments. And maybe we'll even stick in a link to some design document that would describe the payment system. So you can see I've made that comment, and it's got a URL link in the comment. Similarly, this could be links to documents, links to wiki sites, actual pictures of problems if you've got screenshots. This can all be put into the comment section here. So Peter's made his comment, and this review looks like it needs some rework. So Kevin, our reviewer, is going to come along, and he's going to reject this change that Peter made. And again, you know, I mentioned highly configurable process. The other thing we can configure is the list of things that a reviewer has to check when they're performing a review. And of course, this will be different for different customers, so we allow you to configure this. This is just a list of things that they need to check, and we store audit trail about who checked these and when. So I'm going to say this failed our coding standards and reject this change. So what's happened now is that change is rejected. It's gone back to Peter. And also the CM request associated with that change will have gone back to Peter as well. So if we come back to his Eclipse user interface and we refresh, look at that. The Dimension CM request that he was working on has come back to the under work state, and it's ready for him now to fix the problem that he introduced. So Peter's going to come in here. And he'll make some kind of change to allow other cards to also be charged. He's going to deliver that change to the repository. Now he's fixed the problem. So we've got a single file being delivered. And he's going to pick that same request again that he's delivering against. And of course, what this will do if we look at the change set graph again is another delivery's occurred, another build is happening. And again, that build will go green in just a couple of seconds when the build completes. So while that's building, I'll just show that this change set graph is one view of the data. You know, we were looking at like a year's worth of data here, and we were seeing everything that's changed in that year in a kind of timeline fashion. But we've got other views of this data. So for example, we can look at a stack ranking. So Peter's delivered 25 changes in that year, Emma's delivered 10, Dinesh has only delivered 1. And we can also get insight into the quality of those deliveries. So 12% of Peter's deliveries were failures, 68% success, 20% failed to build. So it's a way of looking at that data and finding out what's happening in your development organization, measuring your quality. And again, there's another view, which is our punch card view, which is showing what days of the week and what times of the day are our most busy periods. So Wednesday at 9 a.m. and kind of between 5 and 6 on a Monday and Tuesday are when this team are mostly delivering their changes. It's just another way to judge what's happening with your changes. And part of the reason for presenting all this information in a single place is to enable the development team to make decisions. So for example, on change set graph, if everything towards the end of the graph is green, you get an idea that maybe this project you're working on is ready for release. There's a kind of degree of release readiness. If there was a lot of red and failed builds and a lot of code churn, you wouldn't quite be ready for release. So okay, we've done our peer review and we've fixed our problem. So let's actually go and approve that review ticket now. So that ticket was back in review. And Kevin can see that Peter's now changed this, such that there is some logic for when it's not an American Express card. And what we're seeing here now is all of the changes that Peter delivered against this peer review ticket. But of course he made 2 deliveries. If you just wanted to see his initial delivery, we can do that. We can click up here to only see the differences between the initial state and the first delivery. And click view, and we get just the initial change. Click the additional change set, click view, and we get a view of the entire change he made. So it's just to point out we can deal with multiple changes against a single peer review ticket, with the peer review ticket going round the peer review loop like that. Now Kevin's happy with that. And he's checked that it's highly maintainable code, not very complex code, and it meets his company's coding standards. And you actually see, if I go back to the graph, of course, that will have now changed on the graph, and there'll be a tick for that peer review. And the peer review was for both of these change sets, so they both became ticks. Both of those deliveries were just successfully reviewed. And if I look at that review ticket, I mentioned audit trail. We can see here that the person who approved it was Kevin, and these were the reasons, the things he checked when he did his review. So there's accountability there for the quality of this change. So finally, just to finish off, let's finish the story and actually merge that change back to our initial stream. So on the graph we can see we branched off, we made a fix. Let's merge that fix. So we'll go back to Eclipse to do that. And what we'll do is we'll use the new merge wizard in Dimensions. So merge streams or folders. There are, of course, a couple of different types of merge we could do. We could be merging individual change requests, we could be merging baselines, but in this case we're merging streams of development. Which stream do we want to merge in? Well, that's the one we've just been working on, the web payment. And that's merging into my local work area. And now, of course, what I would normally do now I've merged into my local work area is build and test that. But let's assume we're happy with the merge between the savings stream and the web payment stream, and we just want to now go ahead and deliver that. So right-click here, Team Deliver. Just those 2 changes that we made in that stream are going to be delivered back to the main line as part of this merge. And to begin the process of delivering those changes back to the other stream, merging with any work that might have happened in between times. And there it's appeared on the branch graph, and it started to build, of course, on the savings stream. Again, you know, every commit is causing a build. We have a continuous integration system running here. Okay, and while it's doing that, I'll just show you a couple of the non-pulse features that we have. So we could, of course, have a view, not just a graphical view of what changed where, but we could have a view in a tabular form that shows who's been changing what. So if we look at the list of change sets that were delivered to that stream, you can see here our 2 deliveries. Our initial delivery modified 2 files, our second delivery modified just the 1 file. And it's showing this fact that each of these deliveries is versioning our repository. Versions 0, 1 and 2 there as the repository with each of those changes. And all of this stuff I've been showing is available in all the clients. I will just switch over to the desktop client, and you'll see that we're trying to bring that health knowledge into the other clients as well, not just into that web view. So for example, if we look at the change sets view here, I've configured this one to show the review status and the build status. So we can see that that merge we just did from web payments into our savings stream, it needs to be reviewed. We haven't actually reviewed the results of our merge yet, but it did successfully build. Some of the prior changes on that stream, there's all kinds of changes here, additions, modifications. This change here is an interesting one. So Emma added mobile phone payment. She moved some files, she added some files, and the build for that failed and the review for that failed. And finally, last feature, let's have a look in here. When a developer's making a change or deciding whether a change is ready to be merged or not, I know a factor around the health is who's been changing that file when and why have they been changing it. So if we look at the file we've been playing with in the demo, we can view annotations. And this is going to show us, if we look at that method we changed for charging the credit card, we can see that there's been a number of changes to that method over time, and we can see for each line of code here who changed it when. So we can see, for example, that in the web #2 revision of that file, Peter made that fix, and he made it against Clarius CR40. But we can also see that the original logic in here for charging the credit cards was implemented by Emma in savings #8 version in Clarius CR41, and we can do operations on these revisions, like compare them between each other. You can use this to isolate when a change was introduced. So hopefully, showing you the branch graph there, you can see the value of getting visibility into what your team are doing, where work is happening, where branches of development are occurring. And you've got a chance to see some of the other innovative new features we've added to Dimensions CM 14.1 as well, like the annotation view and the change set history view. So that's all I had in terms of demo. I'm going to pass it back, I believe, to Don, and we can have some question and answers around the demo and around the slide deck.
Thank you, Peter. I wish I was Don, but clearly I'm not, although he is right next door to me. I really do appreciate, and I hope everyone valued that demonstration. Please don't go away, because we have 1 or 2 other things we want to discuss. But I am absolutely thrilled and delighted to announce an upgrade program that includes a free upgrade lab. If you are on one of the following Dimensions releases, and you are willing to give us a copy of your database, not your files, but your database, an export will suffice. Dimensions CM 10.1.3, Dimensions CM 2009 R2, Dimensions CM 12.2X, and of course you have an active maintenance contract. We will be more than happily take your database, perform the upgrade, do the analysis, show you what it looks like, and give you a detailed set of instructions about how to replay it at your site, avoiding any additional consequences, avoiding any issues, and really streamlining the entire upgrade program. We make this service available for free, and we highly encourage those of you that might be looking to upgrade to give it a try. We've experienced this over a number of years with a number of other customers. It works very, very well. We think it takes a lot of the burden away from the upgrade process, gives you more time to review exactly how you want to run Dimensions going forward with all the wonderful new features. So I wanted to make that clear. Now I'm going to go to Q&A, and I've been monitoring the Q&A box. So Don, Peter, be aware, questions coming. And if you have any additional questions, feel free to add them into the chat window. First question, does peer review require a license
Yes, so the answer there is that when you log into the new Serena Pulse user interface, that will consume Dimensions license. So much in the way as if you log into desktop client or you log into our existing web client, that will either consume a seat or a concurrent license.
Excellent. And another question, what upgrade paths are supported? I know we've kind of discussed it, maybe you want to give it a more.
Yeah, so we support upgrade from 2009 R2 forwards. If you're on a version 10 or backwards from there, then you can still upgrade. You would come forward to 2009 R2, then you would jump forward to 14. But yeah, the single upgrade is from 2009 R2 onwards.
Okay, excellent. Another question coming in thick and fast now. Do we need to adopt the new features? Can we maybe do them one at a time or all at once? What's the take there?
So we've been very focused on making sure that the upgrade experience, the amount of change you need to introduce into your organisation is minimal. So to remove those barriers of adoption for 14. So you will upgrade to 14. You would have change sets there as soon as you've upgraded. But really from a developer perspective, they won't know they're using change sets at that point. They would have additional capabilities exposed to them through change sets, through the Serena Pulse UI, through the peer review capabilities. And really it's down to you as to how you then want to roll that out into your organisation, whether you want to let the dust settle after your upgrade and then start training your organisation on those new features 3 months after upgrade. So you can really separate the upgrade from the adoption of the new capabilities.
So I get some benefits anyway by just simply upgrading.
Yes, that's right. So as soon as you upgrade, you've got change sets, which means baselines are fast, you've got reliable three-way merge, you've got all of those capabilities there from day one. It's just the new, if you wanted to adopt the peer review capability, you can do that at your leisure. You don't have to do it at the point where you've upgraded the system.
Okay, and I'm bound to ask, and even if someone didn't ask, I'm going to ask, because I happen to know you may be working on some of this. At what point do you think we'll be able to publish any performance metrics?
Am I allowed to say watch this space? So we've got some performance metrics coming out in the next few weeks. So I can give you a couple of examples there. So one of the capabilities we haven't talked about today is something we're calling the personal library cache, which really enables LAN-like performance for distributed development teams. As an example here, our Dimensions source base, we actually host it. Our Dimensions server is on the west coast of the United States.
My hometown.
Yeah, where you come from, in Poland. And our development team is in Europe. We have around 300 millisecond ping time to the US. And our source base for Dimensions is around, I think it's around 2 gigabytes in size, 30,000 files, that sort of order. And using the personal library cache now, we can now pull that down so a developer can populate a new work area within about 70 seconds.
Wow.
If we were comparing that to Subversion, that Subversion took 46 minutes to do the same operation.
Good.
Git, so what we're saying here is we've got Git-like performance with the central control that you desire. So we're very similar to Git in terms of performance. I think Git was around 65 seconds, so we're 73 seconds. Git 65 seconds, so we're pretty much the same.
Oh, there's room for improvement.
Yeah, we will get there. That's my goal.
Well, let me just say thanks for sharing that. I know I kind of put you on the spot there a little bit, but I'm sure I speak for many of our customers and indeed prospects. We do look forward to hearing the official results. I think that's just about it. One more question, I think, from Dave, and I think he was referring to the contributors display. Can the same sort of view as the resource utilization be seen against an item too? Remember, it was just against the developers.
Yeah, so we will be expanding these capabilities. So you can see the Serena Pulse user interface is very much a V1. We are going to be revving it very quickly. We haven't decided quite how we're going to distribute that yet, whether we're going to rev it every 2 months and deliver it separately to Dimensions. But we will rev that very quickly, and one of the focuses we have around there is around metrics, KPIs and reporting. So you also watch this space basically, and if you're interested in being part of that, contact me. We're very customer focused. We're very focused on providing the capabilities you require You'll have heard me mention customer advisory boards and SIGs earlier on. We will be running SIGs, special interest groups, around these features to make sure they meet our customer needs.
And just to be clear, that new Serena Pulse UI, that comes with Dimension CM, correct?
That's right, that's right. So that's free. That's all there as part of your existing license. So if you're a maintenance paying customer, if you're on maintenance, you get all of these capabilities for free. So that's the new Serena Pulse UI, the your Axis merge, all of those capabilities, change sets, is there.
And one more question, now I'm on a roll. One or two customers are giving me a great idea. I know internally we use both SVM and CM.
Yeah.
Maybe you could quickly describe how that's used, because obviously we are orchestrating and integrating both solutions internally.
Yeah, that's right. So we do use SVM. So we use SVM for managing our change requests, from our agile stories down to our defects and enhancements. What we then do is we orchestrate across to Dimensions. So we manage the development tasks within Dimensions itself, so the change request that Peter was showing you earlier. And we're doing that through, rather than using the old sync type interface, it's a much more joined process using orchestrations.
Excellent. I'm sure maybe we'll do a WebEx and show people how to do it.
I think we should, Ash. I think we should. I think that's an interesting topic in its own right. It's, what Serena's own process is, because it will give you insight into how we're using our tools to improve our development process. And that's something that over the last couple of years we've been very focused around, is our own development process and how we streamline that development to deliver software faster.
Excellent. And a couple of others have just come in, whether you or Peter want to chime in. Do we have support for Mac and or iPhone devices? So
the Serena Pulse UI is supported on Mac devices, is also supported on iPhones and iPads. That's not through a dedicated app, that's through the Safari browser or the local browser on there.
So I wondered why you were smiling there.
Yeah, and it's touch enabled. I'm trying to think of that phrase.
I would add to that the core Dimensions CM web clients in CM 14.1 were tested and validated and supported on Mac OS X, Mavericks and Mountain Lion running under Safari as well.
Yeah, very good. I'm glad you joined the conversation, Peter, because I'd like you to take Paul Sacklico's question. I know he was able to join us as panelists earlier on, so I feel I owe him this response. He's noticed that the demo was focused on Serena Pulse, well, primarily, of course. However, are these new views or functionality available within the Dimensions web client? Or any client?
Okay, so a lot of the functionality we saw, like the merge wizard, the annotation view, the change set history view, which also showed the health of each change and the review state. Those are all available in the web client as well as the desktop client.
Excellent. Well, with that, I think we'll call it a wrap. I want to thank each and every one of you. Check out the free upgrade lab available on serena.com via the Dimensions CM webpage. Feel free to reach out to each and every one of us. We've thoroughly enjoyed putting this release together with 150 customers. So for those of you who have participated in the preview and beta program, thank you, thank you, thank you. This is a release as much for you as for us and for many of our other customers and prospects. Thank you very much. We'll give it a wrap. Have a great evening, great afternoon, wherever you are, and we look forward to catching up later. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.